My name is Rachel. I'm 25 years old. I have a twin sister, Serena. We share the same face, the same height, even the same dark brown eyes. But that's where the similarities end. Serena has always been the one people notice first, the one my parents praise, the one who walks into a room and makes it hers. I learned early on that I was the other twin, the one expected to be responsible, reliable, and apparently invisible. Our parents, Michael and Teresa, own a small construction business. Dad handles the clients, Mom does the accounting. Together, they built a life they're proud of, but somehow that pride never extended to me. The only person who ever treated Serena and me as equals was Grandma Ruth, Mom's mother. She saw through everything, even when the rest of the family pretended not to notice. The story I'm about to tell began on our 25th birthday. Mom and Dad decided to host a dinner at a polished restaurant downtown. White tablecloths, dimmed chandeliers, the kind of place where the waiters glide around like ghosts. I wore a navy blue dress I'd bought on clearance months earlier. Serena, of course, showed up in a silky designer number that shimmered with every movement. People turned to look at her when she walked in. They barely glanced at me. The evening started off harmless enough. The food was good, the wine flowed, and Grandma Ruth told funny stories about when we were toddlers, how Serena once tried to sell me to the neighbor for a cookie. Everyone laughed. For a fleeting moment, I let myself believe maybe this time would be different. Then came the gifts. Mom rose from her seat, eyes gleaming, and Dad pulled out his phone to record us. "Girls," Mom said proudly, "your father and I have something special for you this year." She handed each of us a box wrapped identically with silver paper and a matching ribbon. My chest tightened. Same size, same weight, same ribbon. Could it be? For once, maybe they'd treat us the same. "Open them together," Dad urged. We tore into the boxes. Serena gasped, first her voice slicing through the air like a squeal of triumph. "Oh my God, car keys!" She held them up high, dangling them for the entire table to see. A sleek BMW keychain winked under the chandelier. Cheers erupted. "Congratulations. You deserve it." Wow, a BMW. Everyone leaned toward her, clapping her on the back, showering her with attention. Meanwhile, I stared down at my own box. Inside was a small bottle of perfume, the kind sold at drugstores for $5 when it's on clearance. I twisted the cap and artificial floral stench hit me so sharply my nose burned. My fingers curled around the bottle, and for a second I thought I might laugh. Serena was already bolting toward the door. "I have to see it," she squealed. Mom beamed. "It's right outside, honey." Through the restaurant window, I watched Serena take selfies beside a shiny, electric blue BMW, her face glowing in the screen's reflection. Nobody looked at me. Not Uncle Jack. Not Aunt Melissa, not even Cousin Leah, who usually notices everything. I sat there holding the cheap perfume like it was proof of a crime. I slid the bottle back into its box, pushed in my chair, and grabbed my purse. "Where are you going, dear?" Grandma Ruth's voice stopped me. She was the only one watching. "I just need some air," I murmured. As I walked toward the door, I caught her saying quietly to my parents, "That wasn't fair. Both girls should have gotten the same gifts." Dad's voice was sharp. "Rachel's just an office clerk. Serena works in a high-end boutique. She needs to maintain her image." Grandma pressed on, but softer this time, like she already knew they wouldn't listen. "It still isn't right." Outside in the parking lot, I sank into the driver's seat of my old, used car. My hands shook on the steering wheel. Through the window, I could still see Serena posing with her BMW, Mom and Dad glowing with pride as if the night were perfect. The truth settled over me like ice. They hadn't just forgotten me this time. They had made a choice. Serena mattered. I didn't. As I drove away, headlights streaking across the windshield, I realized something that made my chest ache and my throat burn. This wasn't new. It had always been this way. The birthday cakes that had only Serena's name on them. The scholarships I worked 2 jobs to earn, while Mom and Dad quietly paid Serena's tuition in full. The rent and bills I shouldered while they furnished Serena's apartment. But this car keys for one twin cheap perfume for the other, this was the first time their favoritism felt like a blade pressed against my throat. And it cut deep enough that I knew for the first time in my life I couldn't just swallow it and move on. For nearly a month after that disastrous birthday dinner, my phone stayed silent. No texts, no calls, not even a half-hearted, "How are you?" from my parents. It was as if I'd vanished into thin air the moment I walked out of that restaurant. At first, I checked my phone obsessively, convincing myself I must have missed something. A notification, a voicemail, anything. But there was nothing. The silence wasn't an accident, it was deliberate. They hadn't forgotten me. They had chosen not to reach out. The bitter part was, I should have been used to it by now. Then one afternoon, Serena's name flashed across my screen. Against my better judgment, I picked up. Evie. She chirped, her voice unnaturally sweet. Guess what? Mom and Dad just rented me a new apartment downtown. 2 bedrooms, huge windows, walking distance to the best shops. You have to see it. It's gorgeous. I leaned back in my chair, the phone warm against my ear. That's nice. It's incredible, she gushed. Then her tone sharpened. Anyway, I need help packing and moving my stuff this weekend. Can you come? I almost laughed. After weeks of silence, she called, not to apologize, not to ask about me, but to demand free labor. I can't, I said flatly. I have things to do. What things? Her voice instantly lost its sugar coating. What could possibly be more important than helping your sister? Personal things, I answered. My chest was tight, but I forced my voice to stay calm. Her tone turned into a snarl. Are you kidding me? Family is more important than anything. You're seriously refusing to help me. Yes, I said, surprising even myself. My thumb hit the red button before she could unleash another tirade. For a moment, I just stared at my shaking hand. It was the first time I had ever said no to Serena. The phone rang again an hour later, this time Mom. I didn't want to answer, but part of me knew avoiding her would only make things worse. Ash, no Rachel. Mom's voice was sharp, like she was already scolding me. What nonsense is this? Serena called me in tears because you refused to help her. What's gotten into you? I told her I was busy. Busy with what? She's your sister. She needs you. She has a car now. I said, my voice trembling but steady. She can hire movers. Or maybe her boutique friends can help her. Don't be ridiculous. Do you know how expensive movers are? And her friends all work weekends. Then maybe you and Dad can help. The silence that followed was heavy, dangerous. When Mom spoke again, her voice was icy. Rachel. I don't understand this attitude. You should be ashamed of yourself for being jealous of your sister. Your father and I have worked hard to provide for both of you, and this is the thanks we get. I'm not jealous, I said quietly. I'm just done pretending you don't have a favorite. Rachel Marie, you are talking like a child, she snapped. Serena works hard to maintain her image. That boutique job is important. I almost laughed. I wanted to scream that I'd worked harder than anyone juggling college jobs, rent, and bills while they carried Serena on their backs. But instead, I said nothing. Family should come first, Mom concluded coldly. You're right, I whispered. Maybe you should tell Serena that. And I hung up. For days, my phone buzzed nonstop with angry voicemails and guilt-soaked texts. Dad warning I was disappointing the family. Mom writing essays about how I was selfish and ungrateful. Serena accusing me of being jealous, petty, and cruel. I ignored them all. And for the first time in my life, I realized silence could feel like freedom. Without Serena constantly draining me, I discovered something shocking. I had money left over at the end of the month. Enough to tuck $50, sometimes $60 into a separate savings account. It wasn't much, but it was mine. I remembered the years I'd quietly paid Serena's car insurance, the countless times she'd begged me for grocery money or gas money. She never paid back. Now every dollar I saved felt like proof that I could stand on my own. But even as I added small amounts to that account, a question gnawed at me. How long before they came knocking again? The months after I cut them off were strangely quiet. My phone stopped buzzing. No guilt-laden text, no voicemails full of sighs and accusations. At first, the silence felt unnatural, like waiting for a storm that never came. But slowly, I grew used to it. I worked my office job, came home to my tiny apartment, and relished in the fact that my money was finally mine. The balance in my new savings account crept higher each month, first a few hundred, then nearly $800 by winter. It wasn't a fortune, but it was proof that my life could exist without being siphoned by Serena. When December came, I braced myself for the loneliness of spending Christmas alone. I pictured myself heating frozen pizza, watching Netflix while the world outside glowed with family gatherings. But then Grandma Ruth called. "Rachel, sweetheart," she said, her voice warm as ever. "I'm hosting Christmas this year at my place. I want you there." Relief washed over me. Someone still wanted me. On Christmas morning, I baked her favorite cookies, chocolate chip with walnuts, the recipe she'd taught me when I was 12. I wrapped them in a festive tin and drove to her house. The living room was full when I arrived, uncles, aunts, cousins, all buzzing with laughter and chatter. For once I felt like maybe, just maybe, I could belong somewhere. I helped Grandma in the kitchen, rolling dough with her, listening to her hum. Then the front door opened. "Merry Christmas." Mom's voice rang out, and my heart plummeted. I peeked around the corner. Mom and Dad stepped in with bright smiles, carrying a store-bought pie and a bottle of wine. And behind them came Serena, draped in a brand-new designer coat, her hair glossy and styled, like she was attending a fashion show rather than a family dinner. The moment Mom's eyes landed on me, her smile froze. Dad's gaze hardened instantly, and he marched toward me. "Well, look who decided to show up," he said loud enough for everyone to hear. "Rachel, the daughter who abandoned her family." The room fell silent. Even the kids stopped unwrapping their gifts. "I didn't abandon anyone," I said softly, though my hands trembled. "Really?" Dad sneered. "Because from where I'm standing, you turned your back on us the moment we asked you to act like family." Mom stepped forward, her expression cold. "Your father's right. You've been selfish, cruel, and we've made a decision." Her pause was deliberate, ensuring every relative was listening. "We've removed you from our will. The house, the savings, everything will go to Serena. She's the daughter who actually cares about family." The words hit like a slap, but instead of shattering me, they hollowed me out. I felt strangely calm. "You're right," I said. Dad blinked. "That's it. That's all you have to say." "What do you want me to say? You've made your choice. Serena's always been your favorite. Now it's official." Mom's lips trembled. "We don't have favorites." "Sure you don't." Serena, smug in her coat, finally spoke. "Maybe if you weren't so jealous all the time, things would be different." I stared at her, the BMW keys, peeking from her purse, the coat worth more than my rent. The irony nearly made me laugh. "I'm not jealous, Serena," I said quietly. "I just stopped pretending this was normal." Dad threw up his hands. "Come on, girls. We don't need this drama today." And just like that, they stormed out, Mom clutching her pie, Dad with the wine, Serena trailing behind them like royalty. The entire ordeal had lasted less than 15 minutes, but the damage lingered in the air. "That was messed up," Uncle Henry muttered finally. Grandma slipped an arm around me, her voice gentle. "I'm sorry, sweetheart." "It's okay, Grandma," I whispered, blinking back the sting in my eyes. "I'm used to it." And then something unexpected happened. The family drew closer. My cousins pulled me into conversation. Aunt Lila shared jokes. Even Sarah's new boyfriend cracked stories that made me laugh. For the rest of the evening, it felt like how family should feel, warm, chaotic, real. But when I left that night, clutching the empty cookie tin, I knew one thing for certain: my parents had cut me off for good. And the truth was, maybe that was the gift I needed all along. Spring came with rain-slick streets and blooming magnolias, but for me, life finally felt steady. I went to work, came home to my quiet apartment, and added to my savings each month. I wasn't rich, but I was finally free. Then one evening, as I was washing dishes, my phone lit up with Mom's number. My first instinct was to let it go to voicemail, but something made me swipe green. Rachel. Mom's voice cracked. "We need to talk. Can you come to the house tomorrow?" Her tone startled me. It wasn't sharp or cold. It was desperate. Against my better judgment, I agreed. The next day, I pulled up to the house I'd grown up in. It looked smaller now, the paint peeling, the lawn neglected. Dad opened the door, his face lined, his shoulders hunched. He looked older. "Thank you for coming," he said. And it was the first time I'd ever heard those words from him. We sat in the living room, the same space where I'd once begged silently for their approval. Now it felt like a stranger's home. Dad cleared his throat. "The construction market has collapsed. We've lost major contracts. We're behind on mortgage payments. If things don't change..." His voice trailed off. Mom picked up, tears shimmering in her eyes. "We might lose the house." I folded my hands in my lap, waiting. "We need you to help us," Dad said finally. "Just for a while. until things turn around. For a second, I thought I'd misheard. Then laughter bubbled out of me, sharp and bitter. You want me to pay the mortgage on the house you already promised Serena. It's not about that right now, Mom pleaded. It's about keeping our family together, keeping us off the street. Have you asked Serena for help? I shot back. Mom's eyes flickered. She has her own expenses. Her boutique salary isn't high, and she's planning her wedding. Dad finished. It's a lot. Of course, Serena's wedding. Her perfect life, still unfolding, even as mine had been written off. You're asking me to save the house that isn't even meant for me, I said slowly. You disinherited me. Remember Mom's tears spilled? We were angry. We said things we didn't mean. But please, Rachel, if you don't help, we'll lose everything. I stood grabbing my purse. You know what, Mom? I used to cry over you, over Dad, over Serena. But your tears don't work on me anymore. Her sobs followed me to the door, but I didn't look back. That evening, my phone rang again. Serena. What the hell is wrong with you? She demanded the moment I answered. Mom said you refused to help. They could lose the house. Then you help them, I snapped. You're the one getting the house right. I don't have extra money right now. Do you know how expensive weddings are? Nope, I said flatly. Never been engaged. This isn't funny. They're our parents. They're your parents, Serena. I was just the free labor. You're being ridiculous. They've always treated us the same. I laughed bitterly. Do you actually believe that, or is it just easier to pretend? And before she could answer, I hung up. The silence in my apartment afterward felt deafening, but also strangely empowering. For once I had drawn the line, and deep down I knew the cracks in Serena's perfect world were just beginning to show. The weeks after that confrontation were quiet again, but it was a different kind of silence, one that buzzed with rumors. I ran into Sarah Mitchell, one of Serena's old high school friends, at the grocery store. Sarah always had a taste for gossip, so I wasn't surprised when she leaned in, lowering her voice. Have you heard about Serena? My stomach tightened. No. What about her? She and Derek, the fiancé. It's not going well. My friend Lisa lives in their building, and she says they fight all the time. Loud enough, the neighbors complain. What are they fighting about? I asked, though I already had an idea. Money. Sarah's grin was wicked. Derek's tired of footing all the bills. He works construction, doesn't make much, but he expected Serena to contribute. Instead, she blows her paycheck on handbags and spa days. He keeps saying, I'm not your father, I'm not paying for everything. I swallowed a laugh. It was almost too perfect. Sarah went on, Lisa says Derek's been asking about breaking their lease. Honestly, I don't think there's going to be a wedding. I forced my face to stay neutral. That's unfortunate. But inside I felt a strange mix of pity and vindication. Serena had built her castle on sand, and the tide was coming in. A week later, Grandma Ruth called. Her voice was hesitant. Your parents came to see me yesterday. They wanted me to talk to you about helping them again. I closed my eyes, and I told them no. I remember how they treated you, Rachel. You don't owe them a thing. Relief loosened something in my chest. Thank you, Grandma. She hesitated, then added, but they also said they miss you, that they want to work things out. I stayed quiet, staring at the ceiling of my small apartment. Sweetheart, Grandma said gently, you've built a good life for yourself, a job, your own place, savings. You don't need their approval anymore. She was right. By then, I'd saved nearly $3,000, enough to feel secure enough to feel like I had control. I'd even let myself dip a toe into something I hadn't dared before dating. Tom, an accountant from work, had started asking me to join him and coworkers for drinks on Fridays. He was kind, attentive, and when he looked at me, I didn't feel invisible. But still, guilt tugged at me. They were my parents, after all. Shouldn't I care that they were drowning? Then I remembered the birthday cake with only Serena's name, the tuition I had scraped together, while Serena's was paid in full, the BMW keys, flashing under the chandelier while I clutched a bottle of clearance perfume. I exhaled. Grandma. If they ask again, tell them I'm not ready. Maybe someday, maybe never. Silence stretched across the line. Then she said, That's fair. After we hung up, I sat in the dim glow of my apartment listening to the hum of the fridge. For the first time in years, I wasn't consumed by resentment. Instead, I felt something sharper, stronger. Peace. Serena's world was crumbling. My parents' empire was gone, and me, I was standing steady, untouched. For once, the balance had shifted. By the time my 26th birthday crept closer, my life felt almost unrecognizable compared to the year before. I still worked, the same job, still came home to the same apartment, but everything inside me had shifted. My savings account had grown to nearly $3,000. It wasn't flashy, but it was mine, untouched by Serena's demands or my parents' guilt trips. Each time I checked the balance, I felt the quiet satisfaction of survival. At work, I'd earned a small promotion. It wasn't a corner office or a huge raise, but people noticed me now. My input mattered in meetings. And when I left at 5, I didn't go home to silence anymore. Sometimes I met friends for dinner. Other nights I went for drinks with coworkers where Tom, gentle, funny Tom, from accounting, would lean close to tell me a story, his eyes warm with interest. We weren't anything official yet, but for the first time in my life, I was with someone who saw me not as a shadow, not as a backup plan, but as enough. Through Grandma, I still heard pieces of family news. My parents had sold the house and moved into a small apartment on the outskirts of the city. Their business was gone, their pride with it. Serena, after Derek finally kicked her out, had bounced between friends' couches. She still called herself unlucky, but the truth was, she had never learned to stand on her own. Once that would have crushed me, knowing my parents still favored her, even as she burned everything down. But now I felt nothing but distance, like watching strangers stumble in a story that no longer involved me. One evening, Tom asked me half serious, "Would you ever introduce me to your family?" I paused, swirling my glass. Maybe, I said. But not yet. Maybe not ever. And I meant it. Because the truth was, I didn't miss them. I missed the parents I had wished for, the ones who might have looked at me with pride, who might have given me a car key instead of clearance perfume. But those parents never existed. What I had now was better. A grandmother who had always loved me without condition. Friends who invited me in because they wanted me there, not because they felt obligated. A man who treated me like I mattered. For the first time in my life, I wasn't measuring myself against Serena's reflection. I wasn't trying to earn scraps of love from people who had already made their choice. When I look back on that night, the BMW keys gleaming in Serena's hand, the perfume burning my nose, it no longer felt like humiliation. It felt like the moment everything began to change. Maybe the worst gift they ever gave me was also the best. A wake-up call, a severed tie, a chance to choose myself. And now at 26, I sleep soundly. I pay my own bills. I walk into rooms without apologizing for taking up space. I don't wait for phone calls that never come. For the first time in my life, I am free.